Hello, this is Mr. David Attenborough recording from my home on Cape Cod. Beside me sits Baldwin, my loving St. Bernard. So often I am mistaken for the esteemed Sir David Attenborough, and I must admit we share a strikingly similar timbre. But please do remember that I am just a fictional character, a figment of someone's overactive imagination, a parody, as it were. I invite you to join me daily to virtually have a seat beside Baldwin and myself on our ever-so-cherished porch. Imagine the warm sea breeze, sweet with salt, the gulls soaring above peacefully, and the sun beginning its nightly rendezvous with the horizon. So please, without further ado, sit back, breathe in, and allow me the great honour of carrying on the time-honoured tradition of spoken stories. Tonight, I have the pleasure of sharing with you a tale that has been close to my heart for many a year. Our story tonight is about none other than the legendary figure Robin Hood. I believe this tale encapsulates the essence of true heroism, generosity, and the importance of community. It speaks to the adventurer in all of us, while also reminding us of the importance of standing up for what's right, even when the odds seem insurmountable. It's a story that transcends age, teaching both young and old the value of compassion, teamwork, and the impact one individual can have on the lives of many. So, without further ado, let us venture into the green depths of Sherwood Forest and meet our hero and his merry band. The story is titled Winning the Sheriff's Golden Arrow. It was very pleasant in Sherwood Forest to those who did not fear hardship, and Robin Hood and his men came to love every tree that grew and every bird that sang there. They did not mind that they had no houses to live in. They made themselves shelters of bark and logs to keep the rain off, and mostly they stayed in the open. They did not sigh for soft beds or fine tables and furnishings. They put down rushes and spread deer skins over them to lie on and slept under the stars. They cooked over a great fire built beside a big tree, and they sat and ate tea on the ground. More than 100 men were in Robin Hood's band. Everyone was devoted to him and obeyed his slightest word. They were the best archers, the best wrestlers, the best runners, and the best wielders of cudgel and quarterstaff in all the country, and they grew better continually, for they practised these things every day. Robin Hood was the best archer in all the land. Even the king had heard of his wonderful marksmanship, and even though he knew him an outlaw, he had an admiring and almost kindly feeling for this bold outlaw who shot so marvellously well. But the greedy lords and churchmen who oppressed the people hated Robin Hood, and the Sheriff of Nottingham hated him most of all, and wished above all things to hang him on the gallows. He was a cruel, hard man with no kindness in his bosom, and all his spite was turned against Robin Hood, because every time that he tried to catch him, Robin outwitted him. Now he was especially angered, for he had sent a messenger with a warrant to take Robin Hood, and the merry Robin had met the messenger and feasted him. And then, while he was asleep, after the feast, stolen the very warrant out of his pocket, so that he had to go back to the sheriff without man or warrant either. So the Sheriff of Nottingham used all his wits to get another plan to take Robin Hood. It was plainly of no use to send men, no matter how stout, with warrants after him. He must be coaxed into their clutches. "I have it," said the Sheriff of Nottingham at last, with a very sour look on his grim face. "I'll catch him by craft. I'll proclaim a great archery festival and get all the best archers in England to come here to shoot. I'll offer for the prize an arrow of beaten gold. That will be sure to fetch Robin Hood and his men here, and then I'll catch them and hang them." Now Robin Hood and his men did come to the archery contest, but they did not come in the suits of Lincoln green that they wore as men of the forest. Each man dressed himself up to seem somebody else. Some appeared as barefoot friars, some as travelling tinkers or tradesmen, some as beggars, and some as rustic peasants. Robin Hood was the hardest to recognise of all. "Don't go, master," his men had begged. "This archery contest is just a trap to catch you. The Sheriff of Nottingham and his men will be looking for you, and they will know you by your hair and eyes and face and height, even if you wear different clothes. The Sheriff has made this festival just to lure you to death. Don't go." But Robin Hood laughed merrily. "Why, as to my yellow hair, I can stain that with walnut stain. As to my eyes, I can cover one of them with a patch, and then my face will not be recognised. I would scorn to be afraid, and if an adventure is somewhat dangerous, I like it all the better." So Robin Hood went, clad from top to toe in tattered scarlet, the raggedest beggarman that had ever been seen in Nottingham. The field where the contest was to be held was a splendid sight. Rows and rows of benches had been built on it for the gentlefolk to sit on, and they wore their best clothes and were gayer than birds of paradise. As for the sheriff and his wife, they wore velvet, the sheriff purple, and his lady blue. Their rich garments were trimmed with ermine. They wore broad gold chains around their necks, and the sheriff had shoes with wondrously pointed toes that were fastened to his gold-embroidered garters by golden chains. Oh, they were dressed very splendidly, and if their faces had been kind, they would have looked beautiful. But their faces were full of pride and hate. The sheriff was looking everywhere with spiteful glances for Robin Hood, and very cross he was that he did not see Robin there. But Robin was there, though the sheriff did not see him. There he stood in his ragged beggar's garments, not 10 feet away from the sheriff. The targets were placed 80 yards from where the archers were to stand. Pace that off and see what a great distance it is. There were a great number of archers to shoot, and each was to have 1 shot. Then the 10 who shot best were to shoot 2 arrows each, and the 3 who shot best out of the 10 were to shoot 3 arrows apiece. The one who came nearest to the centre of the target was to get a prize. The sheriff looked gloweringly at the 10. "I was sure that Robin Hood would be among them," he said to the man-at-arms at his side. "Could no one of these 10 be Robin Hood in disguise?" "No," answered the man-at-arms. "6 of these I know well. They are the best archers in England. There is Gill o' the Red Cap, Dickon Crookshank, Adam o' the Dell, William o' Leslie, Hubert o' Cloud, and Swithin o' Hertford. Of the 4 beside, 1 is too tall, and 1 too short, and 1 not broad-shouldered enough to be Robin Hood. There remains only this ragged beggar, and his hair and beard are much too dark to be Robin Hood's, and beside he is blind in 1 eye. Robin Hood is safe in Sherwood Forest." Even as he spoke, the man-at-arms was glad, for he was but a common soldier, and he loved Robin Hood, and wished no harm to come to him. One reason why Robin Hood got away from the sheriff so many times was that the common people, even among the sheriff's own men, were friendly to him and helped him all they could. The gatekeepers shut their eyes when Robin Hood went through the gates, that they might say they had not seen him enter. Hardly anyone would betray him, and many, when they knew of evil being planned against him, sent warning to him. But even the man-at-arms who loved him did not recognize Robin Hood today. The 10 made wonderful shots. Not 1 arrow failed to come within the circles that surrounded the centre, but when the 3 shot, it was more wonderful still. Gill o' the Red Cap's first arrow struck only a finger's breadth from the centre, and his second was nearer still. But the beggar's arrow struck in the very centre. Adam o' the Dell, who had 1 more shot, unstrung his bow when he saw it. "80 years and more have I shot shaft, and beaten many competitors, but I can never better that," he said. The prize of the golden arrow belonged to the tattered beggar, but the sheriff's face was very sour as he gave it to him. He tried to induce him to enter his service, promising great wages. "You are the best archer I have ever seen," he said. "I trow you shoot even better than that rascal and coward of a Robin Hood who dared not show his face here today. Will you join my service?" "No, I will not," answered the scarlet-clad stranger. And then the sheriff looked at him so spitefully that he knew it was well to get away. As he walked toward Sherwood Forest, the sheriff's words rankled. "I cannot bear to have even my enemy think that I am a coward," he said to Little John. "I wish there was a way to tell the sheriff that it was Robin Hood that won his golden arrow." And they found a way. That evening the sheriff sat at supper, and though the supper was a fine one, his face was gloomy. "I thought I could catch that rascal Robin Hood by means of this archery contest," he said to his wife, "but he was too much of a coward to show his face here." Just then something came through the window and fell rattling among the dishes on the table. It was a blunted grey goose quill with a bit of writing tied to it. The sheriff unfolded the writing. It told that it was Robin Hood who had won the golden arrow. When the sheriff read it, even his wife thought best to slip away, for he was the crossest man in Nottingham. And so, dear listeners, our story comes to a close. The tale of Robin Hood is one of adventure, of battles fought not just with arrows, but with hearts and minds united in the cause of justice. It reminds us that no matter the darkness we face, there is always light to be found in standing together, in fighting for what is right, and in the belief that goodness will prevail. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Good night, and may you always find the courage to be your own hero in the story of life. I would like to emphasize my sincere gratitude and extend my warmest thanks for choosing to sit with me this evening and hear my story. When one reaches my age, that is, very close indeed to becoming a centenarian, it is quite refreshing to slow down, appreciate the beauty in the world around us, and simply sit and to talk. I do hope you will join me tomorrow. Until next time, farewell.